Every year, India takes about $10 billion from the US. And no one can stop it. American authorities are powerless. A legalized scam, if you will. An almost entire army of Indians works day and night to make this number grow. And they don't even need to leave India. They operate from different offices spread across the country. Reports have piled up so much that they caught the FBI's attention, leading to a deeper investigation. As a result, the agency involved Interpol and finally started taking action. Amid all this, ordinary citizens in the US, seen as unsung heroes, started fighting back, sparking a real cyber war. But what exactly is this legalized scam? Why did it take so long for anyone to act? And who are the heroes fighting this crime? To understand this phenomenon, where India takes $10 billion from the US annually, it's essential to know how it all began. For many years, India was considered a hub for customer service. American companies realized it was cheaper to have Indian agents handling customer support, as many of them spoke fluent English. From there, they outsourced most of these services to call centers in India, electronically redirecting calls. The idea was brilliant. While major US corporations like Expedia, JP Morgan Chase, and AT&T could save millions by outsourcing, India's economy benefited. Call center jobs mainly attracted young graduates looking for their first opportunity in the job market. This opportunity was especially appealing because salaries were paid in US dollars, which was a huge advantage. Just as earning a fraction of an American salary in US dollars can be highly beneficial in countries with weaker currencies, the same applies to India. The Indian rupee, like many other currencies, holds significantly less value compared to the US dollar, making foreign earnings far more valuable domestically. It seemed like the perfect arrangement. American companies saved millions by outsourcing, and Indians got telemarketing jobs with salaries they wouldn't find in local companies. Little did Americans know that these savings would later cost them billions. The outsourcing boom was so intense that 90% of major US companies saw it as a core business strategy due to the cost savings. On average, American companies saved about $20,000 per Indian employee replacing a US worker each year. A new consulting industry emerged in India to ensure high-quality customer service. But then the Philippines saw India's success and decided to join the game. In 2011, Filipino companies started offering the same service, but at much lower prices, gaining a competitive edge. Another major advantage was language. While only 10% of Indians speak English, about 97% of Filipinos are fluent, and their accent is much closer to that of Americans than any other Asian country. This is because the Philippines was a US colony for 50 years. Even though 10% of India's population is still a larger number than 95% of Filipinos, the cultural similarity between the US and the Philippines is much stronger. Many Indians speak English due to British colonization, but there isn't the same cultural connection between India and the US as there is with the Philippines. Filipinos also improved their skills to offer better services. US companies started paying more for their work, which motivated them to keep improving. Meanwhile, India's workforce quality became a serious issue. Many universities in India provide poor education, leaving graduates unprepared for even basic job functions. To make matters worse, some US companies outsourced customer support to American prisons through a government initiative that promised all the benefits of domestic outsourcing at international prices. These two factors, the rise of the Philippines and the US prison workforce, were enough to stall India's booming call center market, leading to all the typical consequences of a sudden job loss in a once thriving industry. While customer service operations in India collapsed and call centers shut down, a new type of phone-based work emerged. At the same time, the IT industry was expanding, and companies were looking for ways to cut costs, both in product development and customer support. Many customers, after buying new products, struggled to use them, feeling lost with the latest technologies. This created a new demand for customer service focused on tech support. In 2010, Microsoft took the first step by outsourcing all its support and application services to Infosys Limited, an Indian IT company based in Bangalore. However, IT support required professional qualifications. This exposed a long-standing issue in India. Many former call center employees had good customer service skills but were underqualified for tech jobs. Additionally, there weren't enough IT support jobs to absorb all the unemployed call center workers. So, while the problem improved, it didn't disappear. Many customer service trained Indians still had no jobs. They had the skills but not the technical qualifications for IT roles. With few options left, there was only one way out. They had to improvise. Fake it until you make it. In India's IT customer service industry, this phrase took on a whole new meaning, one that was ethically questionable to say the least. Some people realized that India already had the infrastructure and training for customer service, but lacked technical expertise to meet the growing demand for IT support. Gaining those skills would take time and effort, but instead of properly training workers, a more deceptive solution emerged. This is when illegal call centers started appearing across India, with one sole purpose: to scam Americans, especially the elderly. The idea was simple. They would call Americans pretending to be tech support agents from real companies with call centers in India. They invented fake problems and charged for services that didn't exist. The payments went straight to Indian scammers who had set up fake companies. This is how the $10 billion a year scam was born. There were different versions of the same scam, but to illustrate how it worked, let's look at an example from Mark Rober's video on refund scams. A victim receives an email and automated calls claiming Amazon charged them $200. If they don't recognize the charge, they are instructed to call customer support to dispute it. On the phone, the scammer explains that the refund process will be done through their computer. Then, they convince the victim to install software that grants them remote access. The scammer claims that refunds are processed automatically, so the victim must log into their bank account to check if the money has been deposited. Since the scammer has remote access, they can see everything the victim does. When the victim sees no refund, the scammer continues their story, saying they need 5 more minutes with the billing department to compute the transaction. Before doing so, they log out of the victim's account. Suddenly, the screen goes black. During this brief moment, the scammer logs back into the victim's account using saved credentials from the browser. They then manipulate the web page's code, making it appear as if a $20,000 refund from Amazon has been processed, though the victim can't see this yet. The scammer then resumes the call, apologizing for a system error, claiming that Amazon's billing department failed to process the refund. Now they say the only solution is using an online refund server, which is actually just a blank text box that does nothing. The Indian scammer insists that the victim must enter all details correctly, warning that any typo would be irreversible. The victim follows instructions, entering their details, including the last 4 digits of their ID and the refund amount. But when they type the refund amount, the scammer presses zeros without the victim knowing it, making it $2,000 instead of $200. The scammer then tells the victim to check their bank account. To their surprise, the manipulated transaction appears real, and they believe they accidentally received $20,000 due to their own mistake. At this point, the scammer pressures the victim into sending $20,000 by mail, convincing them that the error must be corrected immediately. The scammer even instructs the victim to lie to the bank, postal service, or even their own family, fearing that someone might stop them from sending the money. Throughout the entire scam, the scammer keeps the victim on the phone, applying constant pressure even while they drive to the bank or the post office. The call only ends once the scammer receives proof that the $20,000 has been sent. Another way scammers make money is by tricking victims into buying gift cards from Google, Netflix, or Amazon, and then convincing them to send the activation codes. A different version of the scam involves calling computer owners, mostly elderly people, and convincing them that their device is infected with a virus. This creates panic, especially for those who aren't experts in technology. The criminals then charge a fee to fix the problem. Once the victim pays, the scammer remotely accesses their computer, installs free antivirus software, and pockets a large payment from doing essentially nothing. According to a mafia member who spoke to Undercover Asia, scammers can make enough money in a single night to last them a month or even a year. I'm not joking. This type of operations seem absurd, but scammers carefully select their targets over time. The people they call lack technical knowledge, making it impossible for them to question the legitimacy of the scam. Additionally, Americans were already used to Indian tech support. Most legitimate call centers had offices in India, which built trust and made the scam even more convincing. According to an article in Jacobin, the number of fraudulent calls from scammers pretending to be Microsoft, Apple, Norton, and Amazon employees steadily increased throughout the 2010s, peaking during the pandemic. Tech support scams became the most common fraud across all age groups, with elderly Americans being the most affected. A staggering 95% of scam-related calls originated from India. Over time, these scams became well-known, and as technology advanced, people became more aware of these schemes. It was time for scammers to step up their game, moving to a new level of fraud that terrifies every American. As tech support scams became less profitable, it was time to evolve the operation. That's when Indian scammers got kind of a promotion from IT support agents to IRS officers. In the US, keeping taxes up to date is a serious matter. Citizens do everything they can to avoid falling behind, because tax penalties are harsh and extremely expensive. This fear of tax debt created the perfect opportunity for Indian scammers. The new scam involved calling American citizens, mostly elderly people, but this time pretending to be IRS agents. During these calls, scammers provided fake identification numbers, used formal language, and applied manipulation techniques with carefully tested scripts. All of this helped them convince many victims that they owed the IRS a large sum and had to pay it immediately or face arrest. The most desperate, uninformed, or distracted victims would panic when receiving such a call and do whatever it took to solve the problem. The scammers then pressured their targets into making fast payments, warning that if they didn't act immediately, a police car was already on the way to arrest them. At this point, victims sent payments ranging from $2,000, $5,000, or even $30,000, transferred through Bitcoin, cash, or even gift cards. Yes, it sounds like a comedy sketch, but Indian scammers were convincing enough to make Americans believe that their own IRS accepts payments in the form of Amazon, Apple, or Play Store gift cards. They suggest that victims go to the nearest supermarket and purchase gift cards equal to the tax debt. Once the victims call back, the scammers convince them to provide the activation codes. For these Indian scammers, redeeming these gift cards on their own Amazon, Apple, or Play Store accounts is incredibly easy. They can also resell them on international platforms like eBay or G2A with minimal effort. Even though this scam sounds ridiculous, it has become increasingly common. It's estimated that illegal call centers in India earn, or rather steal, around $10 billion every year from victims. This staggering number proves how profitable this type of crime is and also highlights how much Americans, especially the elderly, are suffering at the hands of these criminals. And here's an important note. In the refund scam, Indian scammers sometimes build fake emotional connections with elderly victims, who are often lonely people, to create trust and guilt, making them feel obligated to help and fix the fake typo.
You're like my granny, Miss Bessie. Do you know this?
Yes.
She was like one of my closest friends.
Oh.
I used to share each and everything with her.
Other times, scammers verbally abuse their victims, insulting them, making them cry, and feel guilty for something they never did.
Go to the UPS! Why don't you go to the UPS?
But how did law enforcement, both American and Indian, allow these criminals to operate freely, stealing billions of dollars year after year? A scam of this magnitude would naturally attract the attention of authorities, especially since phone calls are easily traceable, even with basic smartphone technology. However, Indian scammers don't even bother hiding their crimes. They operate from regular office spaces rented as call centers in city centers, conducting their business as if nothing illegal was happening. There is, however, a key argument frequently used by Indian authorities to justify why these crimes continue unchecked. Muralidhar Sharma, a police officer from Kolkata, explains, "The problem is that we can only act if a victim files a complaint." He recalls an incident from 2017 when he and his team raided an illegal call center without a formal complaint from a victim. The case went to court, but the judge was unable to proceed since there was no testimony from a defrauded individual. In situations like these, Indian police are completely powerless. Countless reports and complaints are not only ignored by authorities but also by the Indian press. A striking example is journalist Samarth Bansal. In the same year as the Kolkata police raid, Bansal was part of a team that exposed an international tax scam operating out of Gurugram. The story was published in the Hindustan Times, a major newspaper, and Bensal expected the revelations to lead to multiple arrests. The investigation uncovered fraudulent operations, detailed how millions of dollars were stolen weekly, and even listed the names of those responsible, including scammers who had targeted victims worldwide. Nothing really happened, he says. All I got was a thumbs up emoji on WhatsApp from a police officer. Nothing more. Meanwhile, criminals are now using artificial intelligence to replicate the voices of US officials and to remove their Indian accents during calls. The truth is, as of today, in India, crime goes unpunished. It doesn't matter if there's a formal complaint, witness testimony, physical evidence, or proof of the crime. A clear example is Mangal Rathi, a small upholstery business owner who lost 25,000 rupees, about $300, to a scammer after unknowingly calling a fake call center. When he reported it to the police, the response was, "Forget it. You will never get your money back. We can never shut these operations down." But this lack of consequences for scammers could have serious repercussions for all of India. A decade after India became a global hub for phone scams, fraudulent call centers continue to thrive. During the pandemic, the scam industry expanded exponentially, draining billions of dollars from elderly Americans. Authorities are struggling to keep up with the growing challenge and have turned to international cooperation. A joint operation between the FBI and Interpol led to the arrest of Vatsal Mehta and Hitesh Patel, leaders of Indian call center scams. These scammers impersonated US government officials, tricking elderly Americans into paying large sums of money to avoid fake arrests. The arrests of Mehta and Patel prove that even the most sophisticated scammers can be tracked down and held accountable. Meanwhile, unsung heroes are fighting back against these scams. Raising awareness is crucial, especially among elderly people. And while these heroes work to educate the public, they also take the opportunity to have some fun at the scammers' expense. But who are they? Since cybercrime in India goes unpunished, some hackers decided to fight back, making scammers taste their own medicine. These individuals call themselves scam baiters. Their method is simple. They pretend to be potential victims, often using voice-changing softwares to sound like confused elderly people who struggle to understand the scammer's instructions. The goal is to waste as much of the scammer's time as possible. As long as they are stuck talking to a scam baiter, they can't scam real victims. But their work doesn't stop there. Using advanced intelligence techniques, some scam baiters hack into the illegal call center systems, gaining access to their computers and security cameras. In large-scale operations, when multiple scam baiters team up, they copy and extract files, photos, and sensitive information from entire scam offices. These files are then sent to law enforcement. In one case, they physically infiltrated a call center, planting cockroaches, foul-smelling substances, and even smoke to disrupt operations. Sometimes, while a scam was in progress, scam baiters managed to locate victims in real time and stop them from sending money to the fraudsters. The best part? Most of their operations are recorded and later uploaded to YouTube, showing how these scams work in real life. Their content not only provides entertainment but also helps raise awareness. Scam baiters often gain control of scammers' webcams or even the entire office's security cameras, displaying their own images on the scammer's screens while they're on the phone. Their videos reach millions of people on social media, and new channels are being created to educate and entertain viewers. Some of the biggest names in this field include Pirogi, Jim Browning, and Kit Boga, whose work I personally follow and find incredible. Teaming up with Mark Rober, they have gotten revenge on scammers multiple times, turning the tables on the fraudsters who thought they were untouchable. There are even tutorials teaching a step-by-step guide on how to become a scam baiter and help fight against these criminals. These scammers cowardly target a vulnerable elderly population who, due to lack of knowledge, suffer significant financial losses. These videos provide comedic relief and a sense of justice, but the real problem remains. There's a well-organized mafia of Indian scammers who have perfected the art of stealing billions from vulnerable people. Worse yet, they operate with complete impunity, avoiding any real consequences for their crimes. So, what do you think the best solution would be? And what are your thoughts on these scams? Did somebody in your family fall for it? Leave your comment below. Now, remember when cities took centuries to grow and develop? Then came Dubai, rising overnight, dazzling the world with luxury and innovation. But what if I told you that it's all just a facade? Behind the skyscrapers and glamour, there's a hidden reality. strict laws, modern slavery, and even basic infrastructure problems. So, is Dubai really what it seems? To find out, click on the video that's on screen right now and I'll see you there. That's it for this video. Bye bye.